Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to the Cathouse in Edmonton, Alberta. Well, it's been a good fight. We've been through just about I don't know how many rounds that is, but we've only got 4 rounds left after this. We're going into January of 1944, and the fight is the Russians and the Japanese have finally gone to war with each other. So it's hard to see the Japanese units because they're red, but they've spilled over the border into Russia, and they needed to do that because the Russians are kicking, like they've got so many units over there, and more units than the Germans, because the Germans of course have to fight a war on the east and the western front. Plus they've got some units down here in the Med, right? I tell you, if it wasn't for the Turks, then it would, like if the Russians would have got the Turks, then this game would be over, I think. But they're still in it, and the good thing is that the Americans, like you look at them, they've only got 1 transport here and 1 transport up in the homeland up there, and so they don't have much of a threat to the Germans and to if we can close off here. If the Germans and Italians can manage to finally take Gibraltar, and we've tried before, and it's tough to take because it's got a fortification and it's got a gun. This gun took out 2 of my boats in the last time I tried to take that, and then the fortification, it pumps everybody up plus 2, you know, everybody in there, and gets an extra 2 shots at 5. So it's really hard to take. I'm going to try again this turn, but if I can close that off, then I can keep those other American boats from going in there, and that's all they can do, right? Without any transports, I've got no boats for them to kill over there, so they'll be ineffective without transports, and so that's going to be my goal here. The Italians are doing pretty well, like down here. Both the British and French tried to take this guy out, and he took off so many units, it's not even funny. He killed a couple of French planes, he killed British tanks. There was more of them, of course. I think there was 3 and a couple of dudes there. But yeah, they killed a lot of guys in there. FVC, they're still not doing too bad. They've managed to get back out here. And with the Russians getting so heavy up there now, the Turks are going to have to scale back a bit, right? Like the British might even be able to move up from there. We'll see. These guys are on their doorstep, but they haven't moved any further because really there's not much there for me to do. Like once I break through this, then that opens them up to a counterattack from there, and so I'm not sure I want to do that, right? I still haven't gone at any of the islands with the Japanese. The big thing here on this side of the board though is those 7 battleships right there. That's 7 of them, and of course 2 carriers as well, and you know, and all kinds of other boats that, like there's 4 destroyers and a couple of cruisers. And there's another carrier up there. There's an Iowa class battleship up there that he's built, and lots of planes on the mainland there. And they're all the boats on that card are sitting right here. I thought I'd be able to put up a better fight in Hawaii there because my guys defended at 5. But when you got battleship shots, 7 of them, you know, that's going to take care of a lot of guys. And in this game, unlike Global 40, you don't get to shoot if you get hit by a shore bombardment, which is the right thing to do. I mean, it's kind of goofy that you would be able to, right? So the Japanese, they're bracing, right? I mean, they've got all those ships up there, but these guys are obviously coming across. There's 4 turns left. They're coming across. They've got their kamikazes. They got 6 kamikaze shots, and they've got the boats that they've got. But we'll see what happens, right? They never did get, like I said, they never did get down there to the islands. Let me take you up to the other side of the board and show you what's going on up there. These Russians are concerning here, the ones in Portugal and the fleet there. The fleet was trying to get in here, but the Italian subs stopped them. They killed the subs though. That wasn't a very good start to the day for the Axis. So let's just put the camera down here. So Germany, first thing this morning, they took this out and they were all proud of themselves, and then the Russians came back and just beat the snot out of them. Like you look at how many units are here. It doesn't even look like they took anything off of Moscow, but they came out here. That's how much stuff they had, right? And that's why I had to open up that second front over there. I got to draw some of his units away from here, or at least some of his money away from here, because he's got like 2 or 3 times more than I do. And like I said, if the Axis hadn't have gotten Turkey here, then this would be even worse because they wouldn't need so much down here. they could be using that stuff up here, right? And not have to defend against it. But like, there's lots of SS units in there. So, and with the commanders and everything, these guys are going to be hard to assault. So that's a good thing. And over here, there's only one British transport at this time. So like, they came across here, but that's all they can do is just bring a couple of dudes in, right? The Americans only have the one transport and then one over there. So the Germans don't have to worry that much about this side, except for the Russians there. The Russians are what concerns me. They've got lots of boats, and Rank Carcass, he's a wily player. Like, he just loves doing stuff that you don't even dream of, right? Anyway, I'm just going to cut it off right here, and we'll go to the next round. Okay, so we're on the next round now. January of 44. So the Americans, like, I put up 4 blockers along there. You see where the planes are. There was 4 blockers, and the Americans were in Hawaii. So they went all the way around here. And so now they're here, and that's that big, huge stack over there. And I'm pleased that they did that, because now all I got to do is move my blockers here, here, and here, and then they can't get around those. So once more, and then they can do it. But that gives me one more turn to build up the island of Japan, because they've got all of those battleships, right? And so that gives me 2 turns to build up Japan. I can put these militia on for $1 a piece, and so those can soak up the hits while everybody else does the real fighting, right? And also it gives me an extra turn. I wanted to accomplish something down there, like I wanted to maybe take one of those islands down there, even though that's going to bring the Netherlands into the game in the form of being on the British side. And you see Rank Carcass here, he's just beating the shit out of me. I can't roll to save my life today. Like, honestly, I've played a lot of games, Axis and Allies and stuff. I don't think I've ever had a day where I've rolled this bad. And it sounds like sour grapes and everything.
No,
but
it's true.
But it's true, man. Like, I honestly, you need low numbers and you get high numbers. You need a high number because you're trying to go for, like economy or something, and you get high numbers. Like, for example here, you do 2d6 when you're repairing battleships, right? Or any capital ships. I rolled $26. That was more than half my money to repair those 3 battleships. It was fucking ridiculous. So anyway, and the Americans they just took back Gibraltar. The who was it? The Germans had Gibraltar there for the entire last round. So the Americans took it at the end of the round, and that opens it up again. Unless somebody comes back and closes it again, which is a lot easier now, because that gun is gone, and the fortification is gone. The British have decided that they're going to start moving in on Spain, or at least a little bit anyway. I don't know if they're going to start coming back up this way. Maybe they just wanted to go for Gibraltar to open it up, and then the Americans did. I'm trying to keep them out of the Med, because once Rank Carcass breaks through there, it's going to be hard to come by points over here, right? I don't know. There's not much else to tell you. Like, most of the rest of the stuff has remained the same. Japan didn't do much. It's just the Americans coming across the water. Just things change back and forth, but nothing really major. So I'll come back after the next round. The Italians are out of the Med here. You can still talk. It's okay. It won't bother me. The Italians are out of the Med. It took 3 navies to get them out. First, who went in first? The Americans?
Yeah.
No, the British.
The Russians killed the Germans first.
The Russians killed the Germans. Then the Italians killed the
British
Russians. Then they killed. Well, anyway,
yeah.
A lot of navies died in there. 3 navies died in there in the last turn. Or is it 4? Fuck, I don't even remember. Anyway, the Americans are the only ones standing. And, but luckily the Italians got enough guys down in Italy to last them for the rest of the game here. There's no way that they're going to be able to bust up there. But it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it doesn't matter that the Suez is closed off. But still, like, it could matter in the end as far as getting some points go. And also Turkey, like, they're shrinking. They're still very much alive, but they're shrinking. And but Italy's pretty strong. Like I don't think Italy's going to get taken out this game. Sometimes you see Italy get taken out because all you have to do is take out Rome, but I don't think there's enough transports to do that because Italy's got enough. I made sure to put enough stuff on there, thinking that they were going to get in maybe 2 turns ago, so that seems okay. Down here, the Netherlands is in the game. The Japanese brought them in last turn, and so the Japanese are on this island here. But then they lost whatever they had there. They didn't have much down here because they were taking most of it up there. But they did manage to kill 3 subs here without losing anything. And then the Americans came across. You see where the plaque is there, that blue one? That's those guys over there. So they're going to be able to assault Japan on the next turn, which will be the second to last turn of the game. And nothing happening in Calcutta. Not much happening in the Middle East. The British have taken control in there. Not much happening in the Atlantic. Yeah, not much happening anywhere. But over here in the Eastern Front, for sure, the Russians are winning now. It's just a matter of how far they can get in the next 2 turns. The Germans have got to put up a better fight than what they have been. So that's what they're hoping for, but we'll see what happens. So far, it has not been good, though. They've been rolling bad. The Axis seem to roll okay against the British, but that's about the only guys they do. They roll terrible against the Russians today. Otherwise, there would be fewer troops here on the border for the Russians. Like, say, maybe 10 less troops if they'd rolled properly, you know, like not dicing them or anything. And then, of course, then they would have been open to counterattacks. But there's no chance of counterattacks the way it looks right now, right? It's all one-sided in there, so it's a matter of trying to keep them, trying to keep them about right here. That would be nice, but I don't even think I'm going to be able to do that. But we'll see. We'll see, right? These guys stopped right here. They didn't think there was any point in going any further. They should be able to get a point over here, but we'll see. Don't know because the Russians are coming now. So we'll see if the Russians are able to cruise through those guys in there. We'll see. Don't know. And this is going to be the big battle right here. The battle for Japan. That's it. See you next year. Okay, that's the end of the January 1945 round. We have got 1 round left. Japan came over with a superior force, and I split mine up here and here. And he took my boats out, but that's all he's got left over there. And his transports, he took the easiest spot here and failed. Like, he rolled bad, and my rolling finally turned around. And so that was a big help to me. But he still got another invasion force over in the back there that can try to take me out. But it's tough though, because I'm gonna put as many more guys on there as I can. So it's gonna be really tough to take me out of there. And then what else do we got here? Nothing really happening down like the Anzac. Everybody on this turn, they're just gonna be going for their points. They're gonna take a look at what they need to do to get points. And that's what they're going to be going for. Here, we've been just rolling dice like crazy on the Eastern Front, and there's hardly anything left. Like, he had huge stacks, and now he's only got 3 stacks left. He must have put all this stuff here because I don't see anything else on any of the other factories, but not much stuff left. And it's too bad that I wasn't close because my stuff is all back here, right? Not that there's a lot of it left, but I can't make any headway into Russia. But the only thing I can do is take this out, and that's it. But the other thing is, on the other side, everybody's still they've got boats everywhere and transports everywhere. But we'll see what happens if they're able to land them, because I'll be able to take a few of those transports out. I've already figured it out how to do that, and. So I don't know if they're going to be able to make any landings in Europe, maybe 1 or 2, but that's about it. And you see the American fleet down there, they're all over Italy there, but the problem is they don't have any units, right? Like I took the units out on that island down there, what is it, Sardinia? I went down there and took them out so that he wouldn't have any units to come and do a landing on me. And then down there, that looks pretty secure, Cairo. They got some forces coming up there, but I don't think that makes a difference. I don't. Maybe they get a point for having that canal. I don't get one. I don't believe for having that canal. I'm certainly not going to get a point for having more capital ships in the Mediterranean. However, neither is he either, because it's British ships. I don't know why he didn't finish his British ships off over there. All he had to do was sail them into there. Look, even if he buys them, he puts them on over here, he can't sail them into the Med. All he needed to do was buy them last turn. Oh well. I'm not gonna complain. Nothing happened over here. Nothing at all. So that's where we stand right now, and I want to get going because it's getting late here, and I gotta leave in the morning, so we'll be back later. Well, the game is over, and I tell you, what an epic game that was. Everybody that played thought that was awesome game. We all had a great deal of fun. It was 3 long days. I don't even know what time it is. It's probably getting close to midnight on Saturday night. But yeah, it was a long day, a long 3 days, but it was a really good game. So let me just take you over what happened here. So, like, the Americans came over, and he had a second wave coming, but I don't know why. He only had transports, like tons of transports and units, and he sat them 2 sea zones away from my fighter that I could easily fly over and fly back. I don't know what he was thinking, but like, we're all getting tired. That's probably just what it was. Like, we were all making mistakes, right? Anyway, I killed that second wave, but it wouldn't have mattered because he wasn't getting into Japan here, right? So you look at, I've got 2 undamaged battleships and a damaged battleship, like that Yamato battleship there. It takes 3 hits, and he has no capital ships. Like, he had, what was it, 9 capital ships over here? No, and the carriers too. And one of them was the Iowa class, you know, like, it just, it amazed me. But the thing was, all he did was buy capital ships. Like, he bought nothing but battleships, right? And that looks cool and everything, but you need cannon fodder too. You need subs, you need destroyers. That's what I was doing the last 3-4 turns, was piling stuff on Japan so that I wouldn't lose Japan, and buying subs and destroyers, because here, like, I had the FEC contained over here, and I just kept beating the crap out of his navy here, there, and everywhere. Like, the Britain only has a couple of ships on the whole board. Here's a sub. That's the only ship. Well, I guess you could say this one. The only ship that transporter. Those are the only 2 ships that are east of the Suez Canal on the board for the British, and so they couldn't get around me. I blocked them off here. And I managed to get 1 down here. That gave me an extra point in the game, and I did it at the very end, when they didn't have enough time to go and get it back. Like, they had a choice. They could go up here with Anzac and take that point away, or they could go here and give America a point. They decided to go there because that was an easier one, and so they did manage to get a point for the Americans by doing that, because that meant that America had all of their land left, or all of their original land. And you look over here, like, all those American boats in there, no land units. You know, like, there was nothing they could do to hurt me, because I've got no boats in there, right? After they killed all my boats, they needed land troops for all those things, and then they needed to take them after Rome or something, and they didn't. They just kept going after Africa. So over here, he did manage to get a couple of rolls over here, so he was doing good. Like, he had the Monroe Doctrine sewed up. He got a point for that, and he got a point for owning all his original stuff. So let me just show you what happened with the points here. So this is, I won the Axis, 12 points. Japan had all but 1 point. I'll show you where they lost their point. It was on the very last turn. The Allies had 4 points, and the Russians had 4 points. I spent some time earlier today, like, whenever I took a break, I'd take the book out here. I'll show you the books here. Red Carcass has these books like this, duo tanks. Here, let me just let me just pick it up. So he's made these books up, and so I took these books outside today when I was taking my break and sitting down and studying the victory objectives, because that's how I lost the game before when Moose beat us back at my place. The last turn he just went and he got a whole bunch of points. So I learned from that, and so I studied the victory objectives for all 3 of my countries, and that's what I keyed on the last 3 or 4 turns, and it worked. Like here, for Japan here, Rank Carcass came into Mongolia on the last turn, and so he was able to have more points on the border with Japan than I did. Those guys came from back here, those Russians, and I thought I had it sewn up. Like I thought that he would have had to go over here. I didn't consider that he could have gone down here, so that he was able to take 1 point away from me. But otherwise, Japan got all of their points. And you see, you look at the land units in Japan there. Like when they came over, I split up my forces here and here. He attacked this force and he took him out like he should have, and then he brought his troops in, but he rolled terribly. He went for the easiest one, and all he got off me was 3 militia. It's really hard to assault the island of Japan because everybody on there defends at +1, and plus it's a mountain territory, so these guys are going -1, right? So he didn't even get in there, and then this is where he put he put all his transports with all those units on it, and I had all my boats here. I just flew over top of this, like he had a bunch of stuff here. He didn't notice that I could fly over top of them, right? So I wiped out all his transports with 1 plane. The FEC, they didn't get their point for holding on to India. Moose tried to take it back. Like, I've got all of this here. This is part of India. He tried to take it all back. He had 12 units, and he just kept running himself at me, and it didn't work. It was too much, too little, too late. The Turks, I think the Turks was a big reason why I won this game, because, you know, like it could have gone any way, right? And I appreciate people who make comments. Like somebody made a comment the other day about what we were doing wrong with Turkey, and sorry, the name escapes me right now because it's been 3 long days here. But they were right that when you're trying to grease Italy, or sorry, when you're trying to grease the Turks to get them to join your side, you don't give them the money, you give the bank the money. And so that made a difference. But at least we only gave the Turks half the money, right? Like it was $56 and we only gave them 28. But you're not supposed to give them that money. You're supposed to just give them the extra money that people give them. And we never did give them any extra money because they were getting enough. You don't want to be giving them any more when you think that you might somebody else might be getting them. So this is where the game really changed here in the last couple of turns. Like, you've seen how built up the Russians were. When they went after me, like, I didn't go after them, they came after me. And at first it was working. But then he just basically ran out of steam. I started rolling a little bit better. I bet you the rolling was about even by the time he got here. And the last 3 turns, like about 3 or 4 turns left, I bought nothing but infantry. Like, I bought 20-something infantry so that I could move them up, right? And then after that, I bought nothing but tanks, right? Tanks and a couple other things that I needed, you know, like for the SS, you know, like if I needed a mountain infantry in one place or another, or a mech or something, then I would buy those. Otherwise, I just bought tanks and I steamrolled them towards the front. And all he had here was 1 tank. And tanks are a big deal in this game because it allows you to blitz. So like, you can take 1 territory and then keep going with your tanks and mechs. But you can't keep going with your mechs if you don't have tanks, right? So tanks are a big deal, and he ran out of steam, and I just came in with the tanks and cleaned up. So I was able to get a point for having this here, and I can't remember all the other points I got with the Germans. What did they get? The Germans got 3 points. So they did all right, but they didn't do great. But they held their own. Like in other games that I've played, being part of, Germany, like it's just Berlin is almost gone by the time you get there. One thing I'd like to point out here, you take a look at the oil here. We even stopped playing with oil by noon today because it became glaringly obvious that there is too much oil in this game. when you're playing it in 36. Like nobody ever even came close to running out of oil. The Japanese did, but we just forgot, oh yeah, right, I can lend-lease them oil. So Germany sent them 20 oils, and then we decided, you know what, let's just stop playing with oil. Because starting in 1936, if we didn't have to move, we didn't move. I mean, you don't have to move stuff, right? Nobody's going to attack you or anything. So you just sit there and you start building your oil up, building it up, building it up. And then by the time war hits, you got, like, you look at this, these guys here. And like Germany, they could do everything. They could spend the maximum 6 oils a turn and still bank 3 oils afterwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 75, 78 oils here. And they probably would have had 100 by the end of the game if we kept playing with it. So you know what? It was interesting and everything, but it didn't quite work. I think it would work with those levels if you played the 39 version, because then you wouldn't have that length of time that we had to do nothing. Like the war is imminent at that point, right? And you need to use more oil. We just had like 6, 7 turns where you just didn't move much. You know, like there was sometimes you did, but most of the time you only spent like 1 or 2 oils a turn. There was a couple of turns I didn't do anything. Like once I got everybody where I wanted them for Japan, I didn't move, right? And I just kept putting stuff on and moving infantry, which didn't take any oil. So that needs to be tweaked, I think. I like the way it is. I like all of it, but maybe what needs to happen is that there's less oil in the reserves when the game starts. That's really what it boils down to. There was just too much oil on the board to begin the game, because you don't want to change how, like there's not too many derricks or anything. There's not too many oil derricks, and I like the way you spend it and all. It's just there was too much oil to begin with, I think, unless you're playing 39. But I haven't played the 39 game with the oil, so I don't know. I really liked these guys here, the SS. Those were nice. It was hard though. Like if I didn't have it organized really well, then it would have been much harder to play this. But because I was so organized with them, I was able to do it. But even still, like everybody was waiting for me. Even if somebody was playing Japan for me, if I was just playing Germany and Italy, then I would have had more time to go through. Like I've got to go through and I've got to look at everything. You know what I mean? And see what's coming up next, and what do I do next year and the year after that, right? How to spend my money and where to have my troops in order to have them turn into SS. So, but it was really good though. Like I really liked them. They made the game more interesting. And the other thing was these commanders. Everybody liked the commanders. Everybody agreed the commanders were good. We had to laugh though, because when France fell, like they had one commander when they fell, but at the same time they were going to war against Germany, and eventually they were at war with everybody, and they had more commanders than they had soldiers. Like they had 4 commanders and 3 land units, right? So that was pretty neat. But other than that, the commanders worked really well, and I knew it would. I knew it was a brilliant idea where you just you had to have them in the right place at the right time. So if one guy had a commander and the other guy didn't, that would tip the scales a little bit, right? I mean, like, and with all the other modifiers, I mean, the whole game is about modifiers, right? It's about going across rivers. It's about attacking into mountain zones, and the amphibious assaults, which are so difficult to do. Well, you could even some of those things out just by having a commander. You know what I mean? Instead of being -1 to the other guy, you were even now. But if you both had a commander, then you were again -1. But that's just the way you played it, right? The Elite Fighter Squadrons, that's a great one. I recommend that for everybody. And do it like I did it. Like you'll see what I mean when you look at the rules. You got to jump through a bunch of hoops to get all your planes and everything. As long as everybody gets all their planes, there's 5 more planes in the game for everybody to start off with, and they're different planes, right? Like you're used to having your fighters are all the same and everything. But with these guys, like this guy is a torpedo bomber, right? So he has a 1-4 target selection against naval units, but only naval units. You know what I mean? And there's a couple of planes in the game that, like the Messerschmitt. Yeah, this guy here. You could use him as a fighter or a tactical bomber, right? And this is a sculpt that you don't get anywhere else except for the elite fighter squadrons. And so you just put him on top of the chip there. And so he's got good numbers and everything too. But yeah, like, and it makes a difference because as a tactical bomber, he attacks higher, but he defends lower. But at the same time, if you use him as a fighter, well, then he's in the first round of combat, then he's shooting at other fighters, right? So it just depends on what the situation is in the battle, how you decide to use him. You say on your combat move what he's going to be. You know, he's going to be one or the other. But that's what I mean. It just makes it a little bit more interesting when you are using those. Turkey is always a great one to use, but you know, it does dictate the game. I tell you, like the game would have been so much different if anybody else had had it. If Russia would have had it, it would have been different. If the Allies would have had it, it would have been different. The game just would have played out differently. One thing that didn't happen, the Spanish Civil War in this game never was settled. We just could not take each other out. We had it down to where we only had planes left, no ground units, but we couldn't do it. So then Germany and Russia just took over, right? When they went to war with each other, then they just took over the forces and they just kept going. So Spain was quite the battleground. Everybody was in here. Like you can see right now, there's an American here. The Americans and the British are down there. At some point in time, I think it was Germany, might have been Italy, had Gibraltar, and Russia had Portugal the whole time. Rankarkis was being a dick to the Allies because that's the perfect place for the Americans to set up. But they couldn't attack them, not until Berlin's out of the game, and Berlin was never in any danger of being out of the game. So that's so that was difficult for them. But I mean, they played a Pacific game anyway for the most part. You can see like they brought their boats in there and they did take out the Italians and everything. But what a lot of mistakes made late in the game because we played so much, right? And it's hard to concentrate for this long. Like Moose there, he bought these. These are King George battleships. They move 4 spaces, and he was going to put them on the second to last turn up in Britain here, and then put them on up here, and then sail them down into the Mediterranean, and then that would have given him a point, right? Well, he forgot. He forgot until the last turn when it was time to buy them and put them on and no time to sail them into the Mediterranean. All he had to do was put them on the turn before, and boom, he would have got a point. Even just put one of them on because the Italians didn't have any capital ships in the Mediterranean. So between the British and the Italians, who's got more capital ships, that's who gets the point, right? Well, neither side got the point on that one because of it. Anyway, I've been rambling on, and I tell you, I still gotta put all my stuff away here, and go to bed and get up and do the long drive home tomorrow through the Rocky Mountains. But I gotta tell you, I had such a great time. Met some good people out here. Rankarkis' family was really kind to me. They showed me wonderful hospitality and fed me and gave me a place to sleep, and you know, they were just really nice. I made friends with Rank and Moose when they were in Prince George, but I got to make friends with their families and some of their friends as well. Like there was another guy that played with us, and there was another person that was here every day visiting. So I got to meet some new people, and it's been a great time, and I can't thank them enough. It's great though when you get to go when you're playing games like this, and you meet people on the internet, and you get to go a long ways away. And I know some of you have done that. Like I had a great time last year in Toronto at the Grasshopper Invitational, meeting so many people. And this was like that, not to the extent, but just going away, getting out of town and going and playing some games that like we like to do, right? So had a great time. So thank you to Rank Carcass and to the whole Carcass family. That was wonderful. So this is General Hand Grenade signing off from the Cathouse in Edmonton, Alberta. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.